remember I talked about the difficult time in Rhode Island, right? When we lost everything and all of that. And there was a person, older person, who was supposed to help and ended up really taking advantage. And I remember and isolated me from my family and my parents. And I remember my sister told my mom, he's brainwashing her. And I remember one of the things that he would always, the whole purpose of this relationship in his mind was to make me a better person, because I was not a good person. We were really struggling with money. And I'm talking about putting food on the table. And this person gave me money to enjoy something. It ended up being a test to see if I would get something from my mom. I was just getting and he just lit into me about how I was a horrible person. You don't even care about your mom.
So then, full circle moment. It's been 15 years. Her dad passed away. My thing is I went to therapy about it. I've come to terms. I was we were both 17 or we're around that age. I was 17. I can't expect someone to have that kind of emotional capacity at that age, right? At least that's how I felt better. I was you know what? We were children. Her dad passed away recently, and she wrote me this long letter apologizing and was I know now how it feels. And I will, she's like, I've never had regrets, but the only regret that I have is that I did that to you. Because it's happening to me.
Good evening. Your time now is 5:52. I'm Jeannette Reyes.
And I'm Mona Kosarabdi, and this is Off the Record.
Not for real. This is Off the Record.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Off the Record. This one is
my favorite episode already. It is.
This was a we need to talk kind of episode. And it's a little bit of a last minute one, in fact.
Yeah.
So, Mona, I hit you up the other day because my life coach told me something that had me shook. And I've not been shaken like that in a really long time. Yeah. It was around the topic of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. She said that it's a term I'm now calling, or a concept I'm now calling hindsight vulnerability.
Okay.
And the difference between showing process and showing results.
I will preface this with saying that everybody had done told you this in different ways, but I feel I'm so glad the way she put it, you were being receptive to it. But also, hi pot, my name is Kettle. So
I know.
And I'm not any better. But when she was saying it, I was oh, snap. Yes.
Well, I had never looked at it that way. So I'll give a little more context. We this life coach and I, she talks a lot about mindset and what's your thinking behind the way you move in life and in business, and what's the thing that you're not putting a name to that's holding you back.
Yeah.
Some of it is anxiety, some of it is vulnerability, some of it is around, just fears of making it to the top and losing it all, and that paranoia.
I think, let me stop you, because I think we should start from why you even sought out a life coach. What was it that made you reach out?
It's so funny. That's a good question. I reached out because, so this is a person who, made 7 figures. She's a founder of a really successful company. And I was going to her mostly for business, advice and guidance. Maybe we could talk a little about personal stuff, but really to the end of being more efficient in my business and systemizing and processes and all of that. And she was just yeah, this is not that.
Going to a life coach to tell you how to run a business better, I think, is the first red flag.
I was just she was your problem isn't systems. Your problem is mindset. Yeah. And I'm okay, sure.
But can I say something? Recently, I feel even in everyday situations, you talk in business terms. You'll be we need an SOP to grab dinner for this. And I'm well, first of all, what is an SOP? And second, what?
Yeah. I think, no, you're right. You're right. Because I think the more you get in, now being an entrepreneur, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you feel you're on this, in this race to learn these things quickly so you can be more efficient and scale and do all the things while ignoring apparently the elephant in the room, which was mindset. I told her, it really came about because I told her, I feel if I'm not more vulnerable in my content and in my online presence, if I'm being honest, I risk being irrelevant. And I said, and I think I have to come to terms with and be at peace with becoming irrelevant, because that's a price I'm not willing to pay. Like, I don't want to be super vulnerable. I feel like every time I share something that's really personal, I'm shedding, I'm taking off pieces of clothing. And then at some point, I'm just gonna be walking around naked and you can't take it back, right? And then we kind of got into that. She was like, well, why do you feel that way? And the reality is I'm terrified of like criticism. I'm not really good with criticism. I haven't developed the skin for it. And, even being in journalism, I wasn't really criticized a lot from viewers, from my bosses, from colleagues. It wasn't anything that made me question whether I should be in the business or not.
Which to me, it's like, I can relate in that sense because it's something that I was fighting, which is, that means you're doing all the right things. You're performing all the time and you're performing. But it's to the point where like, indifference is the worst thing. The irrelevancy you're talking about is indifference. When people don't feel either that they agree with you or that they disagree with you, they just kind of, you're there.
Right. Yeah. It's true. But it's crazy because you just kind of coast on that. You play it safe. Once you experience that, then you want to maintain that because that's what you're used to. You're used to not getting criticism either way. And so, whatever. So it really came down to, she was like, I feel like you're vulnerable, but it's in hindsight. You'll share what you went through, not what you're going through. You'll share what you figured out, not what you're trying to figure out. And it's actually true. With my IVF journey, I purposely didn't share that publicly because it was just something really difficult that I didn't want to share publicly. That might be more understandable. But my pivot journey, once I left news, shortly after my announcement, I got a bunch of requests from media outlets to talk about why I pivoted, why I left, what's the plan, what's going on now. And I said no to each and every one of them. Podcasts, one of them was like CNBC, CNN. In fact, not only did I not say no, I ignored the request. Like I never even responded.
That's when you know it's that. I'm just gonna act like it is not there.
Right. And I realized the reason why I did that is because I was terrified and I didn't know if this was going to work. And I wasn't brave enough to say out loud, I don't know if I'm going to pull this off. This pivot might fall flat. And I'm too scared to let in the criticism, the suggestions, the whatever, because I might take my butt right back to work 2 weeks later and be like, hey, I just wanted PTO.
Good morning.
There was this was an extended vacation, not an announcement to leave. And she was like, it's one thing to want to be private. It's another thing to do it out of fear. And fear often dictates fear of criticism, fear of being seen, and fear of admitting that I'm building the plane while I'm flying it. That keeps me in my place.
So where does it originate for you? Because for me, I can clock it in 2 seconds,
What do you
which
think
is, for us, like I come from a collective community, like I'm Somali. So it's like any kind of vulnerability is a sign of weakness. And it's like, if you're dependent on other people's survival, you don't want to be the weakest link. So you're always trying to like puff up your chest and be like, oh, you're going through that? Well, I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hate it now where it's like, no, actually like human beings come together when, they share vulnerability and they share like all the difficult times, but I understand that it's a survival mechanism. And so for me, it's like, I've always like, don't share that. Don't do this. Don't do it. Like I've heard that messaging all my life where I'm actively fighting against it. But I feel like for you, that wasn't the case. Is it? I don't know. Actually, culturally, is it?
No, culturally that isn't really it. I think for me, I've never really been criticized a lot. But I've always played it safe, right? Like I mentioned in a previous episode, I really only did the things I was good at. I didn't talk about process. I just kind of did things very quietly. So I wasn't really one to announce during or after what I did. I moved fairly quietly. And so I've never been exposed to, and then news just reaffirmed it. I mean, it cemented that way of moving. So I just go along, in the same way. And I think that's just where it comes from. But there comes a point, and I guess I'm at a crossroads now, essentially, where I have to decide, do you want to keep moving that way or do you want to let people in? The other thing, actually, too, is I don't want to shatter people's perception of me. Like, what they think of me and what they imagine me to be, I don't want to shatter that to the point where, Lord, I'm really speaking engagements. Speak, especially things that are I might say something or misspeak that might shatter people's expectations. Like, because once you've been moving safe for so long and people have this idea of you, the expectations are higher and higher and higher, and they feel like they really know you. And it's like, well, shoot, if I share a little bit more, you're going to be like, she's not who I thought she was.
And what does that mean to you?
It means everything to me, actually. And I live with someone who absolutely does not struggle with that. Like, I marvel. I am in awe of people who don't think like that. It's fascinating to me because it seems to be so liberating. I've said before, the things that I would do and the things that I could accomplish if I wasn't like this.
You can be, though. But I think the first step is knowing that you can change. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not
true.
about,
But let me ask you, for what? What's the payoff?
The freedom that you're looking for. This weight that you carry around, this constant like overthinking about like, did I say the right thing? Did I not say the right thing? How did this person perceive? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of gymnastics.
Would you feel comfortable sharing your process more?
No. Girl, I have the therapist here. Not the joint session. No, because of that reason of like I didn't. Like, when I left ABC and I already had the job at Extra, I look at hindsight and I was like, damn, I should have been like, I'm taking this leap of faith. Yeah. I left my dream job. But I was like, nah, because like what? Like I catastrophize things. So I'm like, okay, but like what if the program goes away? And then now I'm like, now everyone's gonna be like, oh, how did that leap of faith work out? Right. And I'm just like,
yeah.
So I don't, like, that to me, and I'm trying to like, now I'm like looking back and I'm like, is it that I'm embarrassed? Is it that I'm worried? I don't know what it is. I have this, I do the same thing you do, which is why I can clock it.
No, it was so funny because when I said, yo, my life coach just told me something that like changed my life, you were like, go ahead and tell me too, because I probably struggle with it.
I was like, oh, this is free knowledge. Thank you for paying for us. But I think it's, I don't know. I think it's a lot of things. I feel like we're also like millennials, and I feel like a lot of millennials, we're used to portraying this perfect image, right? Things are always working out. You don't show the mess. And then you see the younger generation and they're like, I got fired from my job today. Or like, or they'll turn on the camera and be like, Zoom with me while I get fired. And you're like,
yes. Oh my gosh.
And I'll sit there and watch it. But also, I don't think I could do anything like that. But I also wonder, and here's the thing. I also live with someone who's like that, right? My husband does not care. And in fact, I cringe for him sometimes. Not in like a cringy way, but I'm like, why are you saying that? Don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Like, don't say that. Like, but I also at the same time can see how liberating it is, right? That he's like, this is my testimony. This is my story. And he'll share it. And meanwhile, I'm like tense. But I also came from a house where like, they'd be like, don't share your business. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Like, so I was always regulated for like what I could and couldn't say. And so then I'm like, I'm already thinking about it right now. I'm like, who's listening to this? What do I think?
Oh, I think about each and every person.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, I'm going through a Rolodex right
Who
now.
am I blocking on Instagram and the podcast Instagram? That's a whole other conversation. But I hear you. Like, you're wondering how each person is going to take what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's exhausting, which is why I was telling you, like, I could relate.
Yeah.
I feel like you're a little bit more than me.
Oh, yeah.
But I do understand. But I think, and I know that probably Robert's like this too, where Jordan is like, yo, in football, we would get torn apart. Right? So like they got used to criticism. They got used to rejection. For me, it's like, it feels a lot. I will say though, it depends on what the criticism is rooted in. Because if I see things and I'm like, oh, y'all just talking, I could look at that and laugh.
Right.
The example I'll give you is, for example, like I just went to the Met Gala. My photo like made it everywhere. So then I saw a lot of people who were just like, you know, people love to, they're like the fashion police. And a lot of people were like coming for me in the dress. And I was like, what? This is funny because it's just like, you know, I know that you guys want to say things. Girl, I saw, it was Brazil. And I was like, I don't understand Portuguese, but I saw Basica. And I was like, I can only say, but I thought it was funny. See, like, I'm like, I could laugh at that. But I think it's more about, there's always a handful of people that I envision. Yeah. That I'm like, what would they say about this? And that handful of people always changes. So whatever it's not even my social circle, it's like a little outside of my social circle. So it's like, what are those people gonna say? Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even have this person's number. Why do I care what they think?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's so true. It's interesting because For me, I find that I have certain soft spots. If you talk about, I don't know, like the clothes I wore, I don't really care. Or like money, don't really care about that. I really care for people to believe that I'm a good person. And that goes back to a very specific trauma. Remember I talked about the difficult time in Rhode Island, right? When we lost everything and all of that. And there was a person, older person, who was supposed to help and ended up really taking advantage. And I remember and isolated me from my family and my parents. And I remember my sister told my mom, he's brainwashing her. And I remember one of the things that he would always, the whole purpose of this relationship in his mind was to make me a better person because I was not a good person. We were really struggling with money. And I'm talking about putting food on the table. And this person gave me money to enjoy something. It ended up being a test to see if I would get something from my mom. I was just getting and he just lit into me about how I was a horrible person. You don't even care about your mom. And I was in survival mode. I'm being very vague and hopefully it makes enough sense because if I get into any more specifics, but it was always in my mind. I always worried about whether I was a good person. And I still struggle with that. So if someone criticizes me online about whether I'm a good person or whether this was selfish or it sends me into a little bit of a spiral. It's something that I think about a lot or whether I'm being selfish. So it just depends. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's where having a strong sense of self comes in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You know who you are. You know what your intentions were. And someone like Robert has a very strong sense of self. Mm-hmm. He can say, this person's tripping. Maybe they believe what they're saying, but they don't know me. I know me. And to get to that point, I think is really admirable. So for me, because I know I'm not that way, that's the thing. It's I know myself. Mm-hmm. Instead of addressing the root issue, I just say, I'm not going to put myself in situations where people are going to make me question who I am and my intentions and all of that.
What do you need to prove to yourself that you're a good person? Because you do all these things. You help all these people. You always put your family first. You always put your friends first. So what more evidence do you need?
I don't know. In a weird way, I think maybe if this person said it, but they're no longer here, I would probably.
Even as an adult, though you realize that they were being manipulative.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just something that I work through. I guess at some point you have to ask yourself, when does it end, right? You can't just constantly harp on this one thing. And also intellectually, right? I think that's what it is. Intellectually, you realize, okay, clearly this person was after something else. They were being manipulative. They were whatever. But this is where I get lost in the whole, you know how they say in every joke or criticism, there's a kernel of truth. Mm-hmm. I give people too much of the benefit of the doubt where I'm is there a kernel of truth here? Maybe I did, whatever. So all of that to say, it made me, when my life coach said that, I was man, I've been operating like this subconsciously for the longest. I think that's what it was. It was it shook me because it reframed how I did all of my content, all of my newsletters. They weren't not the truth. Right. They were just incomplete, or it was the final product. And while that's not a bad thing, because I don't think you should share everything. It's the reason behind it and unpacking that, because I think eventually things come to a head. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Because I will say it's one thing if it was your clothes that you just said, right? I think what's difficult to respond to too is if I said if it was your clothes, I would be and if you have an ugly fit, then girl, what? Right. But when it comes to the core of who you are as a person, then it's and what if you are a bad person? No, that you don't want to be.
Right.
But I think knowing now and being able to identify that's huge. I think it's sitting with that and realizing that you can now undo that. Because by each time you prove yourself that you're a good person, you prove him to be a liar each time.
That's true. Here's what I'll say. The downside, and I feel like you can say the same, playing it safe has worked out so well. You know what I mean? What is the motive? She was telling me from a business perspective, she was you could see so much more success.
But you play small.
And that's like,
and I like said
it's
that
been
in a
great playing small.
No, but like I said that in a last episode where I was like, for you, what I want is for you to break out of this box. Like you put yourself, because it's not even that. It's like you would relax. I feel like you would just like, your shoulders would fall.
That's
and
true.
You would just break through. And it's like, it's not for anyone else but for you to be like, I am loud, I am proud, and this is who I am whether you like it or not.
That's a better argument than, man, the growth and the success that you would see. Because I think when you grow up, having gone through difficult times and just wanting for basic necessities, you're like, my bills are paid.
Yeah.
I make good money. I got freedom and flexibility and I can help my family. I truly I wasn't looking to make multi-millions. I don't want to be more famous or more well-known than I am now. So there's no other motivation other than the peace and whatever. But I think when you're used to living with like constant low-level anxiety.
You're like, I'm really comfortable here. We always know
Couple
the
strands of
fire
hair
alarm
might fall out, but
the fire alarm is always ringing, but at least I know.
Right. What would you say is the thing that you're most terrified of sharing?
Damn.
I mean, we might as well get right to it. Like, what process even are you in the middle of that you're scared of sharing that you would rather share in hindsight?
I think that it's that I don't feel successful ever. But that's because I always think that like people are doing better. Like they are, like if I applied myself, I would work hard. I'm not focused enough. I'm not efficient enough. Like the enough. You see how like enough is enough. So it's like maybe it is like that. I don't feel like I'm enough. Like, but I have these like high ambitions and I also like, see value in myself. So I'm like, yes, I'm gonna go after that. But then if I don't or if it doesn't work out as planned, it's like proof that like I didn't have something that's missing. You know what I mean? It's like while other people get jealous, I go inwards and I'm like, I have a baseball bat. I'm like beating myself like, you slept in a little too long. You should have woke up at 5 a.m. instead of 6.
So you fall back on work ethic.
Yeah, but I think it's, that's wrong. Okay, now we're unpacking. I think, okay, I'm figuring it out. Sorry, y'all. This is actually a perfect example of, I was telling Jeannette, I was like, the problem, like you don't have a problem sharing. It's in hindsight, you get a vulnerability hangover and you're like, yeah,
that's the
what we're
worst.
gonna do is like, forget that ever happened, right? Or I'm just never gonna talk to that person again. But for me, it's like I bury it so deep that even talking about it, I'm like, oh, I don't actually have problems. I don't know what you're talking about. Meanwhile, I'm like in the bathroom crying. But I think I was raised in a reward system. So it's like I always saw value in achievements. But like any kind of like, so I see that in like the hyper awareness of like, I also have the do people like me, but it's almost like, am I performing for you? Like, am I saying the right things for you? Am I like always?
So it wasn't you tried your best, it was you didn't get the award.
But it's not even that, like try your best doesn't count because I feel like it was, you have to be the best. And there's always like, you could have done better.
But that's why, so in a lot of like, especially with millennials with a lot of parenting books, they talk a lot about don't tell your kid, good job for getting the award. Say like, good job, you tried your hardest.
Yeah.
Did you, right, no.
No.
So,
absolutely not. Sorry, yeah.
So if you got
there was no participation trophies. And it's an ongoing joke in my house, but it's like, but it is true. It's like, I see that with like, I always want to know that I'm like, I need the ribbon all the fucking time.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I need you to give me the gold star.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's like, all right, let's go to the drawing board and what did you do wrong? Right? Like things could work out, but it's always the focus on, and I didn't realize that, I think I talked about this in another episode where it's like, I tried to do that to Jordan and it didn't work out. He was like, like you are highly critical. And I was like, oh.
Not him giving you an Uno. What is it? Reverse Uno?
Reverse Uno, yeah. But that's like when you have a strong sense of self. He didn't go, man, maybe I do need to improve. He was like, girl, you tripping. And like, wrap this up by Monday. So then I was like, okay, good job. But we talked about how I hate saying good job for things that you should be doing.
Right.
But I'm terrified of duplicating it. Like we're about to have kids and I feel like I'm gonna be like,
oh my gosh.
Little Johnny, why are you not running? Like at 9 months old, like you need to be, you know what I mean? I feel like And if I don't do anything about it, then I'm gonna keep doing it.
I've thought about that with Bella, where I'm like, I think I'm worried that Robert's gonna be the parent she feels safer with when she didn't do well, right? Like when something didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because Robert's very big on like, did you try hard? Did you whatever? Okay. Yeah. Then, you know, I'm just... right.
Should've tried harder. You watch like painting in kindergarten.
But it's one of those things where I have to catch myself.
Yeah.
I have to catch myself. I don't know. It's a vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle. And I think, but then again, I also ask. So I was like asking my sister, for example, like, hey, like it was a story that I wanted to share. And I was like, should I share this story? And she was like, yeah, no, maybe things are better kept under wraps. And I was like, that's like, the analogy I use, I'm like, that's like asking about the Pope about Islam. Like, you're going to the wrong source, right?
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, my husband's like, oh, you should share the story. And I'm just like, oh, isn't that funny? But once the cat is out of the bag,
right,
you can't put it back in. And so that's my biggest fear too, is like, what if I'm like, you know what, let me be vulnerable. And then it blows up in my face. And I'm like, and I feel like a reputation takes years to build and you can ruin it overnight.
I think it's also, see, I struggle with that because especially with social media, when you're vulnerable, you'll get to the right people, but on the way there, you're going to pass through the haters.
Yeah.
Who criticize, who try to tear you down, who try to sow doubt and all of that. And so for me, I have to ask myself, is the benefit and the reward of having made someone feel seen and inspired worth what other things you're letting in, right? Like for me, it's just, that's what I struggle with. Like, I don't mind. That's why when I'm talking one-on-one or with a small group of people, I don't mind being open and admitting I don't have it figured out. I'm so confused. Like, I'm the first person to DM someone and ask them for advice. Like, I really believe in mentorship and all of that. But it's the wider audience. And that's why I think it's a valid question to ask. Is vulnerability on a larger scale to a mass audience really worth it for the person who's being vulnerable when you're exposing yourself to really the dark side of the internet? You know what I mean?
It's so fun. Like, once you said you are really good at reaching out to people.
Oh,
I think I had one mentor maybe. And the reason is because I don't like when I think people have me figured out. I hate that. And what I end up doing is like immediately distancing myself, because it's like I don't want you to see me as weak or there's something wrong with me, or like, because again, I feel like you're gonna criticize me. So it's like, even if I reached out to a mentor and they were like, yeah, no, you need to fix this and that, I don't want that.
Really?
And so I end up being like, I can do it myself. Like, I'm actually like, I already know what's wrong. Like, so I'm gonna keep improving, because it's like, then you're gonna give me another thing. But
it's funny because you and I are total opposites on that, but it's on a more intimate scale. I was gonna say, one of the things that my life coach also said that relates to this is that the girl boss era is done. Like, people are done with the perfectly polished, bow on top, person who's killing it. Gen Zers especially, they want to see the mess. They want to see, you're just as lost as we are, and you're still pushing through and you're still trying to figure it out. And it's almost like they're rooting for the underdog, but it's like, you don't want to be seen as the underdog.
Underdog.
But it's endearing for people.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Like,
that's why I'm like, but what culture? Like, I feel like I'm stuck between two, where it's like, no, there's no underdog. I've been fabulous since day one. That's like my Somali side. Like, I've been fabulous since day one. You bitches catch up, right? And if there's a mess, like, I'm gonna hide it under here and you're never gonna know, right? Because then the first thing people do is weaponize that mess against you. I feel like it's just, or that's a perception. I don't even know if that's true, but it's like, it's true. The perception is like, for example, like, you don't have it together, or like there's this righteousness.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of beauty in the culture. Like, every culture has their own thing, but like, I feel like that is where it's rooted, where the Americans are like, I pulled myself up from the bootstraps. Let me tell you about where I started from. Like, nobody, like, so I'm like, it's always stuck in between two cultures, right? I want to be like, oh, I was born with Prada boots. Right. Bootstraps,
Right.
But so the girl boss era, really quickly to define it, is basically like the Sheryl Sandberg, right? Lean in. I can be a great mother. I can be CEO of a company and, you know, have it all and put a cherry on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's curated, it's polished, it's resolved, and I'm going to help you try to figure it out too, as opposed to let's figure it out together.
Yeah.
And I see the benefit of that. I love being on the receiving end of that, right? Like I love seeing a person who's a CEO who's just like, y'all, some days I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, it's validating. It makes me feel seen. But for me to do it, that's really tough. So that's at the crossroads that I'm at and what I'm trying to figure out. In fact, one of the things that I'm kind of scared to really admit or get into is with like the pivot playbook that I'll be coming out with. I think it'll be out by the time this is live, sharing the blueprint of how I did what I did and how I pivoted and all of those things. And I'm just like, girl, but what if the pivot isn't pivoting anymore?
You still, oh my God.
Like it's this weird,
yeah.
it's this weird fear of like when you don't feel like you deserve, or you like deserve just as anybody else to be a multimillionaire, to be super successful, to be that person, you feel like you're going to lose it, right? Like the other shoe's going to drop. Like this can't be that good.
Who's taking it?
I was going to answer.
The IRS.
In fact, they're calling me right now. It's this weird anxiety. So in our session, my life coach had me name my anxiety, like personify it, give it a name. What does it want, and why? Like, why is it doing this? Right? His name is Al. I don't know why I came up with that name, but anyway, it's like this voice that says, like, why are you pretending to be this person who has it figured out? Girl, this was luck. Like, you got lucky. Yeah. And you can't teach luck. What are you teaching? What skill are you you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were just a little crazy and you got lucky, and you might not have this for a very long time. So you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. But all of that to say, to be open about that and to share that is terrifying. I think to other people, it might be endearing. It might be relatable. Like, girl, that's first gen coming from a background of parents who are working class, who are trying to make ends meet. It's real to wonder how long is this going to last. A person who comes from money is like, yeah, damn right.
Making itself at this point. Yeah. But no, I think, I like this, Jeannette. I like this, Jeannette. Because it is true. It's like, it explains too why you work all the damn time. Right? And it is real. And I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling where it's like you're always ready for a catastrophe. The thing I was going to say is I love that you named it. There's a book that I read years ago that my mom put me onto, and they named that voice Mr. Defeat. Ooh, right? Yeah. And Mr. Defeat's the one who's like, what are you doing? Why, like, who told you could do this? And is forever present. But I feel like when you name it, then you could be like, Defeat, shut up. Shut up, Defeat. Or shut up, Al. Right? And then it's not part of you, it's outside of you. And so I 100% love that you did that, because then you could tell that voice, shut up. Right. No, I think that's super helpful. And to that point, just in case folks want some tips, she had me give it a name, describe what it looked like, what color. And she said it lives in your stomach. Like, it's a knot. She said it's a knot. What color, like as many details as possible to make it come to life and to be able to visualize it. Yeah. Because it's hard to tell a nothingness to shut up, right? Yeah. This like vague idea. But when you give it a name and you personify it, it's easy to be like, who do you think you are talking to me like, you know what I mean? The same way, you know, I sometimes I talk to, you know, any bully, right? Who thinks they can get over on you. Okay, but I do wonder actually, like if I was a hating ass friend and I was like, girl, who you think you are putting out a pivot playbook? Would you see that as outside, or would you listen to me?
I would probably just distance myself from you. I wouldn't say anything to you.
But would you internalize my words?
It would sit with me. Yeah, I would probably internalize it. And then I would just cut you off so I can internalize it in peace.
Which, as you should. Right. But that's so funny.
So it's a lot to unpack. Hence why, when I tell you, you know that meme of like that cat or something that looks super like frazzled and they're just sitting there like. When we ended our call, I was just like, oh, wow. I paid for this.
I love it, but like in one session, you're so different already.
Yeah.
And I love it.
So what are you gonna do with that information? Since you got a free life coaching session.
You gave me the login to the Netflix.
Wait, I know.
She can't watch it then. She gonna know you bootlegging her information.
I know. I will say real quick, I shared it with a friend because she and I are both trying to do a better job of sharing these parts of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, on Tuesday, we're gonna post the content that we're gonna like post the scary was our thing. I put it on my calendar, and it was gonna be me sharing about I have thin skin. And here's all the ways that it's held me back. And this is why I share results and not process. She posted her video on Tuesday.
Oh my God. Where's yours video?
And I was like, oh, I love that you posted. And I commented and everything. So she's waiting for mine.
It's Wednesday.
Her video was really powerful and inspiring.
Did you record the video?
So I'm gonna get around to mine, but I was just like, this is why I can't have accountability partners.
No.
Because so what are you gonna do?
What do you mean? So
like,
I think I need to start telling my therapist. I need to get a therapist again. Because but here's the thing, I cut the last one off because she was getting a little too close. I think I need to start telling my therapist the truth. Like,
wait, you haven't even, ma'am.
No, listen.
We need to start.
Because you don't need to know everything.
I'm not paying you to be in my business. Wait. But I actually want to ask you this because Des, I feel like would agree with this. You're more open on the pod than I am, but I also feel like the podcast is very different from like posting on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, would you post?
Because I think you get instant reaction here. It's going to go through editing process, but you also know you have editing control. That's why.
Yeah, and it's like people like you've put in a lot of effort to come and listen to my podcast. Like it was very intentional. Yeah. So clearly, most likely, you're not a hater, right? So it's a safe space. Would you share your struggle with the goalposts and like chasing success? And would you be that vulnerable on your? I'm talking straight to camera. This is what I struggle with.
You know what's funny? I probably would like test the waters on TikTok, but Instagram.
Close friends on TikTok.
Y'all know how they say they're monitoring souls on Instagram? I think it's one thing to have, oh my God. But that's the thing. It's like if I don't even post, that's so crazy. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I don't post like my dad's anniversary, like the anniversary of his death or any. I won't, like Destiny actually, she posts, or PA Destiny posted about her dad. And I'm like, that like hit me. Yeah. And I was like, she's so strong. And I love that story. But I was like, yeah, no. Right. For me, because it's just easier to push that off.
Do you get weird with, for me, this is why I know I got issues. Criticism, obviously, I don't like. But also, like, when they're like, hey, girl, like, I'm rooting for, like, don't encourage me, don't comfort me. Because it's going to make me cry.
Yeah, I'm like, it's all right. I didn't even know that. Right. Let me, like, suck back in the tears. Like, you would, oh, my God. I would be, like, bawling. And you're like, you know what's going to be like, I'm rooting for you. You're going to get better.
First of all,
because then I'm like, oh, this bitch thing. Oh, hold up, you got it twisted. Like it was a moment.
Well, for me, I think for you, it's like I don't want you to feel bad. For me, it's partially that, but it's for me, it's also like this is becoming really real, right? Like, do not validate, acknowledge, which is why, and this is bad. When we released our grief episode, I went on the ATR podcast, blocked all of my family members. Went on my Instagram page, blocked all of my family members. And then a few months later, I was trying to send my brother something. He was like, I'm not getting it. I was like, oh, I forgot. I blocked you.
I thought she was joking. I
blocked
dead ass like you're joking. And then
that happened. Yes. So I just don't like, because I don't want them to be like, I've never talked openly about our loss. And I don't want them to be like, oh my gosh, you know, like I feel it's so bad. One time my mom got emotional talking about my dad.
Why are you laughing? Because no, I'm not. I'm like, I just realized I just had a very uncomfortable like.
What is wrong?
No, I was raised by thugs. Like, y'all don't understand. Like, everybody in my family is not emotional. And so it's like when that episode aired and my sister called me and I was like, yeah, what's up? Like, you know what I mean? Even I was like, oh, okay.
Girl.
Because if I can't handle then if they're vulnerable, because it's like, I can't be vulnerable around, it's not that I can't be vulnerable around them, but it's like, I don't get gushy. And so then if they got gushy, I would be like, oh. Yeah.
And I think what it is it just makes it real. Like, it makes it real. My mom was talking about real quick, she was on a plane and she saw another older couple holding hands. And it reminded her of her and my dad. And I like to not think about how hard this is for everybody. I don't even like to think about how hard it is for me. So when you say that, it makes it real. And then like, if we're both crying.
Oh no, I know.
So it's just kind of like, yeah. I didn't know what to say. But anyway.
No, and I hope you don't think that I was laughing at you, I was laughing at myself.
No.
Because it's like, you know what it is for me? I can't go there. And so you're making me go there.
No, and I know that.
Yeah.
I was asking that because it's like, girl, you and I can't both be like this.
I mean, I feel like you should see our conversations. It's like, yeah, I'm going through a tough time. Word.
That's crazy. So one day we will process our husbands.
But
Lord.
I will say part of it too is like, I've always, I don't know, like there's a few things that stick out. And one is like, I was always told not to cry, right? Like, or like, oh, there goes Mona. Like those big brown eyes are gonna always fill up with tears. So then like but it was like a joke,
right.
But I internalized that as like, oh, okay, like suck it in. So like every time I cry, I'm like get it together. Like, or I'll make a joke to like break or whatever. But I also think that, and this is like, oh, this was interesting. When my dad, when they first told us we're in the hospital, that he had cancer. And I was just like, I don't even know like what that means. I don't know what to do. Like, and I ran outside because I was like, I need a breath of fresh air. And I called my best friend at the time. I shared this. And I was like, I need someone to talk to, right? And I think I've always been raised in kind of like a family bubble. So I never like, my friends say I'm not vulnerable because it's like, whatever I need is in this bubble, right? So for me to even reach out to be like, okay, let me see if I can find a bit of connection with someone else that's supposed to be the closest thing to me outside of my family. And she was like, yeah, I'll call you back. Went to a sorority party, never called me back. Like, just was not there for me. And that to me also told me like, people don't care. They don't care about you. So just keep it to yourself. Like they don't care about if you're feeling bad or if you're feeling sad or what's going on in your life, right? So why burden people with your problems when they don't care in the first place? They're gonna give you the sympathy like, oh girl, maybe that's what it is. I feel like it's fake sympathy when they're like, we're rooting for you. And they're like, girl, get it together. So then, full circle moment. It's been 15 years. Her dad passed away. My thing is like, I went to therapy about it. I've come to terms. I was like, we were both 17 or we're around that age. Like I was 17. I can't expect someone to have that kind of emotional capacity at that age, right? Like, at least that's how I felt better. I was like, you know what? We were children. Her dad passed away recently. And she wrote me this long letter apologizing and was like, I know now how it feels. And I will, She's like, I've never had regrets, but the only regret that I have is that I did that to you. Because it's happening to me. And it's like something that I thought I got over. In that moment, still felt like, wow, I never thought this apology was coming. And it also validated that I was like, oh wow, it wasn't crazy like
and
that.
You weren't expecting too much from someone. Yeah. That's crazy that she remembered that and even thought to. A lot of people wouldn't be big enough to apologize.
And it's been 15 years, but it's like to me it was like, wow, you remember that, so it like validated like, oh, I wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
Like because I think I've said that. Like I'm just like, oh, you know what? That was probably like a story that I made up. Like after a while, it feels like that, right? Like, oh, I made it up. I probably didn't even do all that. So then when she said that, I was like, oh wow, it did happen. And it happened the way I said it did. And I was right to feel the way I felt. And I just like, I'm so sorry that she's going through that because I don't wish that on anyone. I don't wish that on anyone. And it's like, to me, I'm like, I long forgived her. I wasn't even carrying it around, but it felt so good to get the apology just because it made me feel like I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's.
What did you tell her?
I mean, I just told her that I was sorry that she was going through that and that we were kids and I don't hold it against her, but that it did, like, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's just. But then it was like, even after that episode that we like talked about it and everything, my sister was like, I felt the same way. Like, I didn't want to, like, my friends were just going on with their lives. I've never talked to her about it. So for her to tell me, I didn't know what to say. I was like I don't, like, we're so close. But even my husband's like, how are you guys so close, but you don't share?
The thing.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
because like, I'm so uncomfortable. I think it's what it is. I'm so uncomfortable to go there that I don't want to go there. I would rather just be like, but I also like my cousin brings up her dad all the time. Like, family that are like, oh, let's remember. And like, I don't go to the grave.
Yeah, no.
Like, what? I went by accident. I was leaving work one day. This is like probably like 3 years after he died. I was leaving work. It was an overnight shift. And I was just like, I was sad. I was like, I'm not like, you know, as beginning my career, I'm like, it's not where I want to be. Like, it's so hard to break in. And I felt like I was giving in so much and nothing was happening. And I make the wrong turn at work. And I'm like, where am I even going right now? I'm just driving. And I was like, this looks really familiar. And I saw the sign. I'm like, I think this is where he's buried. Just went up the street. Just kept driving. I literally just walked into the office. Sorry.
It's okay.
I literally just walked into the office and I was like, I think he's here. And he was, and I went there. But it's like, I didn't tell anyone because it's like, it's too painful that we never talk about him because it's just like, I would feel uncomfortable bringing it up. I don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable for feeling that way. And so to me, it's just like, it's easier to keep it here, keep it light, joke.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it awkward.
I get it. Oof. Did you talk to your mom or your sister about it after the grief episode at all? I feel like you said your mom.
I was surprised. Yeah, like, but I guess, like, again, it's like my husband will want me to bring it up and I'm like, I can't. Like, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then I know it's uncomfortable for them. And so then it just creates this awkward air. Like, why would I create this awkward, you know what I mean? And it's like.
So I propose that we do the scary, whether it's talking to your loved ones about your dad, sharing something that's really vulnerable on your platform, maybe even touching on things with your partner that you don't typically touch on as a way to build the muscle and see what happens.
So on Tuesday, we're about to post. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we cutting the strings?
There's like multiple. I'm gonna cut one.
And so the hot air balloon flies away.
I think you should share about your dad and how you process that.
It's easier to do with y'all.
But no, I think it's really powerful.
Well, I appreciate you for starting this conversation. And I think I'm so excited to see your journey.
Our
already left you.
That's
I love that for you.
I'm the one who does that, not you.
I know, right? But no, I think this is what I wanted for you.
Oh,
but you
gosh.
weren't listening. It wasn't my message to give you. You needed to hear it from someone else. And now I think it's hit.
Okay. Well, we will see if I end up doing the I'm kidding. I will commit to doing it in small steps. And who knows, we might be surprised by the reception.
Yeah.
Okay. Lord, we got to stop crying during things.
Listen, this point, we need like a therapist to be in the episode with us.
That would be
Because
really
that, like,
interesting.
I'm over here like, yeah, I don't know if you need to cut those strings.
I wouldn't cut them if I were you.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us. And I hope you challenge yourself to do the scary. Not because we know from experience, but because we'd like to do it with you. So let us know what's the scary that you're going to do and what that feels like. Share the process, not just the results. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of Off the Record. Make sure you subscribe on our YouTube page, Off the Record, and on Instagram at Off the Record Podcast. See you next time.